Hi, this is Chad Miller, and this is my presentation of the research I conducted in my EDRS 8900 class. My research focused on the impact of BYOD policy on teachers. If you're not familiar, BYOD is bring your own device. Sometimes you might hear referred to as BYOT, which is bring your own technology, and they are roughly the same thing. Now, what I hope to find in my study, I wanted to really see how BYOD policy impact teachers' thoughts and feelings about using technology in the classroom. Does it have an effect on how they teach? With so many varying, policies that schools have out there, this can be, quite interesting. Some schools allow, it basically unlimited access for students to use their own technology within the school, while others they really limit the amount that students have access to it. So I really wanted to kind of see how this affects teachers' perceptions of its use. The research questions that I developed for my study, the first one was, how does BYOD policy impact teacher perception of technology use in the classroom? The second one that I developed was, how does the use of BYOD impact teacher perceptions of classroom efficiency? And then what effects does BYOD have on teaching methods and management in the classroom? So these were some areas that I really wanted to focus on. Now, in this qualitative study, I had to rely on interviews, and in this case, I ended up having to use email interviews because of time constraints to do this. Now, through my interviews with my participants, several themes developed within my research. The first major theme was teacher discretion. This permeated throughout most of the interview questions. Teachers' main concern with BYOD in the classroom was their discretion on how it could be used and when it could be used. Another thing that kept showing up was active supervision. The fact that if it's used, teachers have to be extremely active in supervising its use and paying attention to what students are doing with it for it to be a valuable tool within the classroom. The third one was efficiency of time. Just the amount of time that these devices in the classroom can save. Students have it readily available with them. Almost every student has a cell phone or device that they carry with them daily, and they can very quickly and easily look something up, find information that's needed, and this saves teachers a lot of time, and also, having to try to, get a computer lab to use, those types of things. So efficiency was something else. And then finally, the additional resources that it provides. Having this much available resources, at your fingertips was very valuable, and it could be, very usable for teachers within the classroom. Some of the data that I was able to, develop from my study, this question was, does BYOD affect the way that you teach your class? Now, my study was limited by the number of participants that I had, but 44% of the people that participated said that yes, they thought that BYOD did affect the way that they teach their classes. 33% said no, that it didn't, and there were a couple that kind of abstained from the question. So it left us kind of on some middle ground, but at least from what I had, the majority did say that it did affect the way that they taught their classes. An additional question: do you feel that technology use in the classroom yields greater results than traditional methods? So does it, is it going to be better than just the old traditional way of teaching? The majority of the participants weren't sure. They couldn't decide if it actually was better or not. You had 33% said yes, they thought it did. 22% said no. But the majority were still kind of in that unsure range. I don't think there's enough real experience with it or enough data to kind of support either side. But these were their thoughts and feelings about it. The next one: do you feel that there's a correlation between BYOD and classroom management issues? This I thought was something that is prevalent when we start talking about BYOD. Is it going to cause more problems within the classroom than, benefits? Now, the majority of people said no, and I thought this was interesting. Most of my participants said that they felt if there were classroom management issues, these already existed, and BYOD might compound those issues, but really those are underlying problems that would already be existing, not something that the BYOD would create. Limitations on my study. Of course, one of the largest limitations is going to be the sample size. Only having 9 participants in my study, it really limits the reliability and validity of the study. So for this to really have, more, at least more results and be more credible, we'd need a much larger sample size. Another issue I had, not all the schools in the district participated. I was trying to do this study in a district that has 5 schools, and only 2 schools, allowed participants, and so I think that, is a major limitation. And then finally, generalizations for, other districts based off of this data is going to be very limited because every district may have a different policy in how they implement BYOD, so it might not be relevant to, every district. My conclusions and findings, the major thing that I found was teacher discretion and efficiency of time appeared to have the greatest impact on teacher perception of technology use in the classroom. Teacher discretion was the big one that kept popping up over and over again. Teachers were more concerned about their ability to control how the devices were used in their classroom. That was the key factor to them. The other thing was the efficiency of time, how it sped up their time and made things easier for them. A well-designed and implemented BYOD policy is needed for this to actually be effective and work. You need to have something in place that is going to have some teeth to it that teachers and students and staff are going to have to follow. And then, of course, much further research is needed in this area. There's very limited research done here, and with, BYOD continuing to grow, and this going to be, a continuous issue that we're going to see in schools, much more research is needed. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it.